Hey guys, this is the second blog where I'm going to address the atheists. I'm not doing this blog, in front of my house to shut you guys down or to judge you guys or anything like that. I'm doing this in front of my house because typically before I go down to my gym and I work out, there's a gym in my house. Before I go down to my gym, I ground here every single morning. I connect with the Lord. And before I could do this, I also connect with the Lord at an altar that I have in one of my rooms upstairs. Okay, so I give my wife a kiss on the forehead, and that's what I do first thing in the morning. So that's why I'm here outside. I'm not here to flex on you guys. But that being said, I had some people come to my page, come to my last video, and they were saying like, unless you can give me evidence that God exists. Look, I'm not going to debate God with you because of the nature of what debate is. Debate implies that I can be proven wrong that God exists. My faith is such that I'm so connected with God that I can't even let that be a possibility, right? It's not about being proven wrong because my interaction with God and my relationship with God has been proven 100-fold. Do you understand what I'm saying? I used to be not used to be, I still am very logical and very analytical. That's how I run my businesses. That's how I afford a house like this. I still use logic. I use logic at a very high level. I'm very analytical. But when it comes to spiritual matters, the rules of logic do not fully capture everything. Logic and spirituality only intersect at the intersections of pattern, order, and repetition. That's it. Logic is not sufficient to explain the rest of spirituality. It's not an efficient tool. And I'm a very good user of logic because I use it in business. That's how, again, I afford a house like this. Okay? I use my logic to make money. Do you understand? I use my logic to make money. I use my logic and my skills to make money, but God is the one who opens all the doors to the relationships and to things like that I couldn't have made myself because I'm not much of a networker. I'm an introvert, not much of a talker. So I can speak, but I'm pretty much a Sigma male. I like to keep to myself. I'm introverted. My wife is the one who's more sociable. She's the extroverted one. We balance each other out. Okay? So that being said, there's substance behind what I say. I didn't always live like this, and I'm not using this as a prop for anything. This is just my normal routine. I didn't always live like this, okay? I got to this point through doing introspection, through growing with the Lord, through working with the Lord, and growing my spirit, and growing my talents, and growing my skills. God did not allow me to access my logic and access my analytical abilities and use them to make money until I got right with him first, okay? Now, I explained I'm not, again, when I make these videos, I'm not trying to convince you guys to become Christian. I'm not trying to convince you guys or debate with you guys that God exists. I'm just sharing my experience and I'm sharing the rules of spirituality because, like it or not, even if you're logical, there's rules to every single thing that you do. There's rules to the game of chess. There's rules to dating and relationships. There's rules to love. There's rules to how you treat women. There's rules to how you handle children. There's there's best operating procedures to how you approach everything in life, including spirituality. And you cannot expect to approach spirituality with pure empirical logic and expect to get the most out of it. It just doesn't work that way. Okay? Because the way that God communicates with us is specific to us. Now, when I said that to somebody, they were like, oh, you're just bloviating and that's just nonsense. No, I'm saying that God knows you so well that he will communicate in a way that resonates specifically and uniquely to you because he knows you inside out. In my case, God knew I was extremely logical and analytical, not making it up. Again, I'm so analytical and so logical that is how I make my money. I'm a business consultant. I'm a business strategist. When I get on the phone with other business people, I'm not speaking from the spirit. I'm speaking from logic. I'm using my logic and analytical gifts to make money. That's how I make money. I'm literally that for a living. Okay? When I'm doing business, that's what I'm speaking from. That was not sufficient for me to find out spiritual growth and for me to understand the world of God. God does not speak to me in terms of just logic and spirituality. God speaks to me in terms of spiritual, emotional, and different kinds of abundance. I'll break it down for you. So, for example, here's where my logic failed. I was so logical before I turned over to God that I needed proof for everything. Just like a lot of you atheists, you're always on my thing. You're saying, oh, I need evidence. I need evidence. I need evidence. Okay. When I was going through my spiritual regeneration and God was growing my spirit for the first time and I became aware of it, I went through so much back-to-back spiritual experiences that were so vivid that it was impossible. It got to the point where I was like, I'm talking about like over 100 times, back to back to back. I would pray something, I would get the answer. I would think something, I would get the answer. And I wasn't manifesting these things. I would just say something and I would have a question in my heart that I wouldn't even say out loud. And I would see the answer on a billboard, or a truck would drive by, or a car would drive by. The license plate would have the answer. I still have the pictures of these things. I took pictures of them because they were so relevant to my success. They were so relevant to my growth as a human being. So I have a life now. That was back then. Now I have a whole life that's based on this stuff. So even the way I met my wife was based on the ways that God pretty much, like, there's patterns in the way that I met my wife. For example, I had met, before I met my wife, I met a woman and it didn't work out with her. And when I met her, she was wearing a certain dress. And I was heartbroken because it didn't work out. My wife was wearing the same dress the first night I met her. So I felt like God was telling me to go talk to her. I went to go talk to her, and years later we're married and we're expecting our first child. That's just one example. Now you could say that that's a coincidence, but if I keep telling you guys the amount of things that could be coincidental in my life, like for example, I have a new company called Infinite Magnate. This company drives traffic for online offers and online businesses and whatnot. That's what we do. We provide traffic. The introductions that were given to make Infinite Magnate possible came from a woman that is in one of the 12 tribes. I'm from the tribe of Gad. She's from the tribe of Judah. She brought me these connections. So she's one of God's people. Every single thing that I experience that is upward moving comes from the Lord. Every single thing. You guys think I'm playing. You think I'm just talking nonsense. Okay, fine. You can think that. You can think that. Think that if you want. But I'm simply saying this. I'm not trying to tell you guys to believe my way. You don't have to believe my way. I have a covenant with the Lord in which I asked God when I was at my lowest to bless me in such a way that I would be able to scratch the surface of my potential. That's what I asked God for. I said, God, let me scratch the surface of my potential. I had tears in my eyes. I was going through a lot, okay? I prayed King Solomon's prayer of wisdom, and God answered me, and he never stopped answering me. Today, I live in a multi-million-dollar home. I have 3 cars. I have the i8, I got the M8 Grand Coupe, and I just bought this GLE, AMG GLE Mercedes for my wife, standing out in front of my house right now. There were times in my life where I thought that this was impossible. And I'm not saying, the message is not like, oh, if you worship God, you're going to get rich. That's not the point. No, finances and large abundance were in my calling. They were in my life. They were ordained for me because of what my skill set is. Your skill set, you might be a gardener. You might be a teacher. You might be an educator. You might be a doctor. You might be a nurse. You might be a fireman. You might be a police officer. But what I'm trying to say is this. Whatever your station in life is, whatever your position in life is, whatever you do in life for work, and whatever you do in life in general, when it has the power of the Lord behind it, it's supercharged. Because the other version of me, without the Lord, without the blessing of the Lord, was completely different. I was not living this way. Okay? Now, some of you are going to discount all this, and this is anecdotal evidence. Okay? The problem with that, however, is that think about this. When you're trying to bond with God, he's going to speak to you in a way that he knows you. Think of all the greatest people that you know in anything, in any sports. Think of Usain Bolt. Think of Michael Jordan. Do you think that Usain Bolt, do you think that Michael Jordan, do you think that any of these highly successful athletes, do you think that they used statistics and logic to determine whether they should play games or not? To determine did Usain Bolt use that to determine whether he should run races or not? And if he did, would he have been able to run races? No, because he's the fastest man. He's the fastest man alive. So it's like he couldn't have used statistics because he was ordained to be the fastest man alive. I mean, his last name is Bolt, for God's sakes. All right? So I'm just saying, think about it this way. You guys you're using statistics and you're using logic incorrectly. Logic and statistics are meant for certain environments. They're meant for scientific environments or business environments where the variables and the sample sizes are too small or resources are limited and you need to get a quick, accurate, fast answer, that you don't have the time to analyze all the variables. Life, though, is way more complicated than a science experiment. Life is way more complicated than a business projection. Life is way more complicated. There's way more variables. So as a result, statistics is not efficient because you could be Usain Bolt. You could be Michael Jordan. You could be that anomaly. Statistically, Elon Musk should not exist. Statistically, Usain Bolt should not be able to run that fast. Statistically, Michael Jordan shouldn't be able to play basketball that well. Statistically, a lot of these people should not exist. But why do they? Because they serve something higher than themselves. They serve something higher than themselves. Newton, one of the scientists, Newton, acknowledged the presence of God over his discovery of the laws of physics. You know, there's a lot of, now, Elon Musk doesn't believe in God and whatnot. He has expressed that. But his talent and his skill and his ability is unusual. And anybody can see that. And if he approached life based on statistics, why he wouldn't even take the risks that he took, because he knew that failure would be likely. He would know. Okay, so I'm not here to criticize you atheists and to make you come over to my side and like to make you think like me or whatnot. I'm just simply telling you that I have tried your way of thinking before and it does not work. It doesn't work. It works for business. It works for science. It's just like a ruler or a hammer or a wrench works for what it's supposed to be used for, but it's not supposed to be used for every aspect of life. Especially now when you can barely, like, there's some scientific things that are so big that you have to trust third-party entities to tell you the truth about them. So you're not even using science because you're not even utilizing the scientific method. You're not forming a hypothesis. You're not testing that hypothesis. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're just taking their word for it because they are scientists and they've been peer-reviewed. But you don't really know. You don't really know because you haven't been there. We're just taking the word of experts, but you don't know. You don't know. We see it happen all the time. You could take your car to a mechanic and know nothing about your car. They could tell you it's fixed, and by all means, it's fixed, because what do you know about your car? That's where God comes into play. In fact, in my opinion, in my life, God comes into play everywhere. But that's where God really comes into play, because it's like you cannot possibly know everything. You cannot possibly test everything. You cannot possibly sample everything. My life is not where it is because I'm a genius. I'm good at money. I'm good at business. I'm good at strategy. I'm good at certain things. I'm good at logic. But I could not make my house a home. I don't bring the family together. This is a collaboration of me and my wife and God. There's things outside of our control that happen that just fall into place because God is watching, because God is protecting us. You may not believe this. You think this sounds all crazy, like hogwash. But let me tell you something. You post your own video. You show how you're living. You show how your perceptions and your logic and your way of viewing the world has led to your life. If it hasn't led to this, if it hasn't led to what I'm living and what I'm experiencing, or better, or a more fruitful existence, or a more peaceful existence for you, what are you telling me? Why would I adopt your way of thinking? Do you understand? I'm living a great life. My wife is gorgeous. She's 5'11", I'm 6'1". We have a great life together. We have great family life. Her family respects me. My family respects her. We have a great family dynamic. We have, we celebrate our mother's birthdays. We're able to throw them these huge parties. We live a great life blessed by the Lord. And everything we do is by the Lord. We pray before we eat. We pray when we wake up. We pray when we go to bed. We live by the Bible. And those of you out there that are saying that this is like, we're delusional or something like that. Well, I mean, like, if my thoughts were delusional, if my thoughts were at random and not organized and not structured, how could I maintain a lifestyle like this? How? I'm not saying that everybody that's rich follows the Lord. I'm not saying everybody that's organized follows the Lord. Everybody who's successful follows the Lord, because that's not true. But they follow biblical principles. They just don't know it. Order, diligence. In Proverbs, all over Proverbs. Diligence, order, hard work, faithfulness, truthfulness, integrity, all of these things are in the Bible, in Proverbs. And you have to follow these things in order to be successful to some degree. Or else you'll create a life of crime and you'll face consequences from it. Look, there's so much I could say in this topic, but all I got to say is, look, I'm not trying to tell you guys what to think, I'm not trying to convert you guys. I'm just sharing my experiences. That's all. God bless.